Are you ready to take control of your financial future? Barry Watts with WealthCare has the strategies you need to plan for a successful retirement. Whether you're planning for retirement, saving to live out your dreams, or looking to grow your wealth, Barry has resources to guide you every step of the way. Barry and the team at WealthCare develop customized plans to help you achieve your financial goals. Welcome to Watts on Wealth with Barry Watts.
Hello, and how are you? Only about 25% of Americans say they have a written financial plan. That means 3 out of every 4 of us don't, and most of us don't have a specific plan. So how do you get a plan in place? That's where we start with the amazing Barry Watts of the WealthCare Corporation of Springfield, walking us through his process for helping you create a comprehensive plan to retire. Barry is right here. Barry, great to see you as always.
It's good to see you, Ralph.
To spend a half hour with you. I'm your host, Ralph Hipp, and welcome in, and hope you can stay with us for this whole half hour. As I mentioned earlier, only about 1 of every 4 of us say they have a written financial plan, so most of us don't have any specific plan. I'm guessing a lot of people really, you're not even sure what we mean when we talk about having an income plan for retirement. Barry, can you explain the process for helping people around the Ozarks build a solid retirement plan?
Ralph, we have a process at the WealthCare Corporation that we call 6 steps to retirement confidence, and it looks like this. It looks at things like, first of all, income planning, starting with your sitting on the porch number, how much income that you need every month in retirement. Then we move to tax planning, how to get you hopefully to the 0% tax bracket. And if not to the 0% tax bracket, we want to get you to the lowest tax bracket possible. Then we move to investment planning, focusing on protection of principal, how much principal you should have set aside so that it can't be touched by a volatile stock market. We look at healthcare planning, focusing on Medicare costs and long-term care costs as well. And then finally, we wrap out that process by looking at estate and legacy planning. And the 6th step, Ralph, is that every year when we sit down together, we work through those 5 steps once again to make sure nothing has changed or arisen that changes the situation.
Right. Hey, if you join us on our radio show every weekend, Barry really goes through those 6 steps in detail for you. But let's go through on the TV side some of those pieces of the process, one piece at a time. And Barry, what does that income plan include?
Well, we start with your sitting on the porch number. How much money do you need deposited into the bank every month to pay your bills? And that number is different for everyone, of course. It's amazing how much difficulty people have coming up with this number. But really, I think you ought to know, in a way that you can kind of cheat your way to finding it, is look at how much is deposited into your checking account now from working. How much money do you receive every month? And then do you spend all that, or do you save some of it? And that ought to begin to give you an idea about how much income you're going to need in retirement. Yeah. Then we put an inflation factor on that. If it's that much this year, how much will it be next year and the year after that and the year after that? So we inflate that income all the way for the next 30 or 40 years to the end of your retirement lifetime. Then we look at your sources of income. Now, everybody starts usually with Social Security, or maybe if you don't have Social Security, it means you've got a teacher's pension or a railroad retirement pension. For people who do have Social Security, though, sometimes they have pensions on top of that. And so we then supplement Social Security and pensions with withdrawals from your investments. We help people figure out, should they take their pension each month, or should they take it in a lump sum and maybe create their own personal private pension? And more, as we see big corporations and government entities actually going bad financially, we're seeing people say, I'll handle it myself, give me the lump sum in cash. Finally, what we've got to figure out, Ralph, is how long you're going to live in retirement. And of course, nobody knows the answer to that question. So what we have to plan on is you living longer than you think you might. So just because Grandpa died at 82 doesn't mean that you should plan on that. My own grandfather died at 65. My dad is alive and going strong, and he'll be 81 in May.
81.
And so, we need to be thinking about what life looks at 91 and 95. The way we do it at the WealthCare Corporation is we just plan everybody to age 100. And if they die earlier than that with a little money left in their accounts, well, good for them.
All right. Barry, I'd love to know about how long does it take to come up with that first step, the income plan? And then once the income plan is in place, what's next?
Well, the next step after getting the income plan in place is figuring out what your investment plan looks like. And the income plan, it doesn't take very long. If I have all the information I need, that's something I can figure out within an hour or two. Now, it may be a week or two before we actually sit down together to go over that again. But the step after that becomes the investment plan. And that's where we would determine what your appetite is for risk. And there's a way I like to express that, Ralph, in miles per hour. People don't know what their appetite is for risk. They don't know how to answer that question. But if you say to them, we're going to take all of your money, your nest egg, and we're going to put it in the car and we're going to go driving down the road. And we know if we have an accident at 1 mile an hour, probably nothing happens bad, but at 99 miles an hour, it destroys everything.
Starts blowing out.
Where is your comfort level? How fast do you want your money to travel? Yeah. And when we know that, we then show you, because we have the data, we say, well, at 55 miles an hour, here's exactly how much money you could make in a 6-month period of time, but here's how much money you could lose in a 6-month period of time. Are you comfortable? And people begin saying, I'm comfortable with that, or no, I'm not comfortable. And we make adjustments to find the right miles per hour for their money. And then we look at their existing portfolio and say, well, let's see how fast your money's traveling. And a lot of times people will come in and they'll decide they want to travel at 40 miles an hour in retirement. And their own portfolio that they have right now is at 78 miles per hour. So obviously they need to slow it down a little bit, but they haven't had tools to think about it, and nobody showed that to them before. And so these are the kind of things that we bring up, helping people figure out how to get the return they need, but with less risk so they can dampen their volatility. I don't know about you, Ralph, but I'm kind of past the roller coaster stage.
Me too.
You know, when we go with people to Silver Dollar City, they come into Southwest Missouri, everybody wants to go to the city. So we go down to Silver Dollar City, and all the kids want to ride the roller coasters. And you know, they got some wicked ones down there. Well, I'm a watcher, not a rider. I don't do anything bigger than a merry-go-round.
Because those younger people, they like the risk. And when we get up in our age bracket, we don't like that much risk.
Here's an interesting fact for you, Ralph. The more wealth you get, the less you like risk. You might think, conversely, that people who've got more and more money would take more and more risk. No, when the richer people the less risk they're willing to take. It's very interesting.
Very interesting on that, Barry. And thanks for all your great commentary so far. A lot more of the show to go. Reality is, though, friends, a lot of us, as you said, we don't have that written financial plan to retire. It's intimidating. Barry is making it very simple for you today by breaking down what the process looks like. We'll continue our conversation in just a moment here on Watts on Wealth. Stay with us.
How does your future look in retirement? When you don't have a strategy, the future might look a little fuzzy. But with someone asking the right questions and helping you learn where you truly stand, it can become easier to work towards your goals. You need a plan to help generate income that will last as long as you need it. And the first step to creating an income plan is an analysis of where you are now. Let us help you bring your retirement into focus with your free income analysis today.
On the surface, your retirement plan might look solid. With your 401k or IRA, Social Security, investments, and insurance coverage, you appear to have it all covered. But what could you be missing? Below the surface, is your retirement exposed to too much risk? It's time for a deeper dive into your portfolio. We can help you uncover the risk that lies beneath the surface and learn about strategies to help preserve your savings. Get your free risk analysis today.
And Barry and I sure appreciate you joining us for Watts on Wealth. I'm your host, Ralph Hipp, along with J. Barry Watts. And we're talking over how creating a comprehensive retirement income plan for you, it sounds complicated and confusing. Barry says making it simple for us and walking us through their team's process at the WealthCare Corporation is what this segment's all about. And let's go, Barry, now to the tax planning step of your process.
Well, Ralph, this is my favorite step.
My
favorite topic.
As you mentioned, we don't like to talk about taxes.
We don't talk about taxes, and everybody's afraid of taxes. Everybody's afraid of the IRS, and you don't have to be afraid of the IRS. You do have to follow the rules and do it correctly. What most people don't know is that there are a lot more rules that are in your favor in the tax code. Places that you can save money that people aren't aware of, and here's a little secret for you. Most tax preparers and CPAs aren't aware of that either because they haven't been trained to look for those particular sections of the tax code. Intuitively, you might think that they would be, but you know, the A in CPA stands for accountant. That means someone who keeps track of the numbers and records them correctly. It doesn't mean someone who is a tax expert. So the place that you can get the most bang for your buck, Ralph, is in taxes and in tax savings. In fact, we're often able to show people how to save as much as $250,000, $250,000 through proper tax planning. And you might say, well, that's silly. I don't even pay $250,000 in taxes. I get it. How much do you pay per year? How much will you pay over the next 30 or 35 or 40 years of retirement? Aha! Now we're at $250,000 to $500,000 probably. And so the thing you have to consider is, what are tax rates going to be over the rest of your retirement? People don't think about that. They don't know. People don't even know, Ralph, that the law as it's written currently on the books says taxes are going to go up January 1, 2026. And I doubt the Republicans and the Democrats can get together well enough to change that law. My guess is January 1, 26, that's what's going to happen. And it's going to be the first of many steps. The Wharton Business School tells us that taxes are going to go up by 40%, that the government has no choice. And the reason for that, Ralph, is because of a 4-letter word. Do you know what that 4-letter word is?
What is the 4-letter word, Barry?
Math.
Math. I thought it was something we couldn't say on TV.
Yeah, well, I do know there are those George Carlin blooper words, and maybe this one ought to be one.
Math.
Math.
In what way, Barry?
This is not Republican, it's not Democrat, it's mathematical. The amount of money that the government has spent all of these years, factored by the fact that they're borrowing that money, and the fact that interest rates have gone higher, so the government's payments on the money that they borrow have gone higher. We're going to have to raise taxes to solve that problem. And Republicans don't want to admit that, and they can't get elected saying that. But the simple truth is, when you get to Washington, D.C., somebody's going to have the courage to raise taxes, and I hate that. In fact, I don't want my clients to experience that. So what we do at the Wealthcare Corporation is we try to show you how to bypass those tax increases that are coming so you don't have to participate. While the rest of them see their taxes raised, you hopefully won't have to be a part of that, because we've arranged your money differently and shown you a way to withdraw your money at lower tax rates, in some cases tax-free, and allowing you even to leave more money to your heirs when you are gone.
How does that sound to you? Sound amazing? Well, Barry can help you do that with the team at the Wealthcare Corporation. And we don't want to overlook healthcare costs, Barry, getting ready for retirement. That's an enormous, big chunk of the puzzle. And where do healthcare costs or long-term healthcare costs fit into your process?
Well, that's step 4 of the process. Remember, it's 6 steps to retirement confidence, and step 4 is healthcare costs. Now, what we want to do there is, first of all, identify how much you're going to have to pay for Medicare. Some people say, well, I'm not paying anything for Medicare. It's free. It's a government program. Oh, and that is so not true. Everybody who's on Medicare, pays for Medicare every month that they're on it. And the amount that you pay is determined by how much other money you make. So, if you manage your income properly to get as much of that income tax-free as you properly can, then perhaps you don't have to pay so much as Medicare. There are some people couples who pay over $13,000 a year just for their Medicare alone, and then they have to purchase a Medicare supplement on top of that. And a Medicare supplement will cost you somewhere in the ballpark perhaps of $2,000 a piece. So if you're already 13 in and you had $2,000 for the husband, $2,000 for the wife, we're at $17,000 to pay for our free government health care. Now, Ralph, we haven't even gotten to long-term care costs. In the 417 area code, the official answer from the government, if you can trust that answer, is that long-term care is going to cost you $7,000 a month. When my mama, Ernestine Cox, was over at Elfindale, and she died 5 years ago, when mama was at Elfindale, we were spending $10,000 a month. Her money, she had saved it up, so we got to retire her and send her all through long-term care on her money.
Okay.
But it was costing $10,000 a month 5 years ago. So it has to do with where you want to get your long-term care. And then there are other expenses on top of that, like dental and vision. What are they saying hearing aids cost these days? Something like $7,000 a piece or something like that. So getting old ain't for sissies, and getting old ain't for poor folks either, Ralph. And we want to help be sure that you've got the money allocated in the proper buckets to pay all those bills that are coming your way when you retire. And since I know you've kind of retired, it's important that you and Sheila have this on your mind.
Barry, great answers to my questions, and we have some viewer questions coming up, and your answers for them. We look forward to that, and thanks for all your expertise so far. There's more to come, as straight ahead, Barry will share the top signs you might need a new advisor for your retirement. And still to come, we will answer some of your retirement questions from all over the Ozarks. So you're watching Watts on Wealth, the TV show. We'll return in just a moment here.
Planning for retirement can be complicated. Helping create income that lasts, making sure your healthcare is covered, investing while managing risk, and don't forget about taxes. If you're overwhelmed, you're not alone. The good news is we have what you need to give you confidence to start planning for your ideal retirement, all in one convenient resource. You'll get answers to some of your biggest retirement questions in this easy-to-understand, practical resource. And best of all, there's no cost to you. Take the first step toward a confident retirement and get yours today.
You know, friends, sometimes the person who helped get you to retirement might not be the right person to guide you through retirement. Barry breaks it down in this week's Steps to Confidence. Barry?
Well, thank you, Ralph. I think one of the first indicators that you might know that you need to consider looking for a new advisor is when your present advisor doesn't listen to you. One of the greatest compliments I've ever received from one of my clients was when he said to me, "You know, Barry, you ask great questions." Yes, that's exactly what I meant to do, because great questions cause you to think, and they elicit from you great answers and allow you to move into places and spaces that maybe you hadn't even thought of for your retirement. So I want to be known for asking great questions that cause you to think, and I know that you can be trusted to come up with great answers. I think the second thing that you want to consider about whether or not you should be looking for a different advisor is, does your advisor listen to your spouse? It's not seldom that we will hear people come in and say, you know, he talks to my husband, but he doesn't ever listen to me. The wife will sometimes say that. And so we try to make a point of figuring out which of the two, husband and wife, are the shyest, the most reluctant to engage, and we direct more of our questions to them because we want them involved and engaged in the process. And sometimes people will come in and say, now look, I don't really want to be a part of this. He handles all of it, and I just am happy to let him do it. Well, let me say this to you. He might not always be here. And in case he disappears on us one night overnight, you need to at least know where your money is and have the language and the voice of the advisors who guided you in your mind, so you are more comfortable when the time comes that you have to deal with them one-on-one. There's a third reason that I think you should consider perhaps looking for a new advisor, and it's this. If your advisor speaks Greek and you can't understand what they said, you need someone who works with you who'll say it as simply and as plainly as possible. And that's critically important. And financial advisors get into their own lingo and their own jargon. Lawyers do the same thing in their business. Doctors do the same thing in their business. And you can't understand what they said. We try to always dial it down to the simplest of terms and say it in a way that we make sure you're both understanding. And then we ask you if it made sense and if we need to clarify anything further. The next reason perhaps you ought to consider looking for a new financial advisor is if your financial situation has changed, but the advice that you received seems to be the same. So in that case, the advisor isn't growing with you, he's not allowing you to grow, and he's not realizing that your situation is dynamic. And the advice that you got 2 or 3 years ago, or even last year, may not be the advice that you need for today because your situation is different than it was. So if you're getting the same old trotted out rehashed advice, just hang in there, it'll come back. That's a sign that you need a new advisor. Then one of the other reasons that you need to consider looking for a new advisor is perhaps if your advisor doesn't seem proactive. If he or she never calls you, they only reach out to you maybe when they want to place a trade, but they're not focused on helping you think in advance about the things that are coming down the road and not anticipating the fact that you're going to retire. If you're within a couple of years of retirement, your advisor should already be talking to you about the steps that you need to take in order to be prepared for retirement. And if he or she is not doing that, then that's an indication that they are not proactive. It's awful easy for people in the retirement and investment space to kind of get lazy about the advice they give and not be focused on making certain that they're staying on top of your situation. Don't allow them to get by with that, is what I would encourage you. And then there's a final reason that I think you might want to consider looking for a new advisor. It's simply this. If your advisor doesn't give tax advice, if they say to you, "Oh, I don't know anything about that. You have to talk to your CPA," out of there. That's the wrong person for you. At the Wealth Care Corporation, we talk to our clients about taxes. In fact, for many of our clients, we prepare their tax returns. We've got CPAs on staff and tax strategists on staff, people who used to work for the IRS, who can not only tell you what the tax law is, but they can tell you what's allowable for you and the strategies that you ought to take that will reduce your income taxes. And that's the kind of advice that you ought to be getting from the people in charge of designing your retirement. Back to you, Ralph.
Next up on the TV version of Watts on Wealth, if you have some questions about retirement, Barry has the answers. Stay with us. You're watching Watts on Wealth, and our questions and answers are next.
When it comes to planning for the future, time may not always be on your side. Think about your taxes. Tax rates are historically low right now, but they'll likely be higher in the future. Our current tax rates are set to expire in just a few short years. With the right planning and strategy, you might be able to cut your tax bill in the years to come. But don't wait until it's too late to take advantage of today's lower tax rates. Let us be your partner in planning for tomorrow so you can enjoy your retirement today.
We're glad you're back with us, friends, and as we get to the end of our show, we get to the end of life with our first question. Time to answer some of your questions about retirement. One of these, Barry, is about one of your steps, the 6 steps to retirement confidence. And let's go to our question from Kenny in Mountain Grove, Missouri. I have a question about legacy planning, Barry. I want to leave an inheritance to my grandchildren. And where does that fit into the process that you talk about on your TV and radio shows?
Well, legacy planning is actually step 5, Kenny, on the 6 steps to retirement confidence. Leaving a financial legacy, I think, is a good thing if that's something that you want to do. And you probably want to leave that legacy as tax efficiently, maybe even tax-free if that's possible. So you work with your attorney, or if you don't have an attorney, we can recommend one to you to help you with that process. Now, here's what's crucial about that. You first of all need to be tax efficient, and you want to be sure that you are designed so that you avoid probate. There is absolutely no reason for your estate to go through probate, because probate takes about 18 to 24 months, and it costs about 5% of your estate. So on $1 million, that's $50,000 that you shouldn't have to pay out, and you don't have to pay out if you have done your estate planning properly. Now, you want to assure that the assets transfer in the most streamlined and easy of ways to the next generation, and that is estate planning. Now, legacy planning, Ralph, Kenny may or may not know, he asked a great question. Legacy planning is something different. Legacy planning is not about how you transfer assets. That's easy to do. Legacy planning is about how you transfer your legacy, your closely held values, the things that are most personally important to you. How do you make sure that your beliefs that are precious to you get through to grandchildren or great-grandchildren whom you may never meet? Well, if you don't have a properly structured legacy plan, that won't happen. And that's one of the things that we like to try to help our clients with at the Wealth Care Corporation, not just the estate planning portion, like Kenny wanted to give money to the grandkids, but let's give values and beliefs and convictions to those grandkids, and that's what legacy planning does.
All right. A great question and a great answer from Barry. Let's go on to around the Branson area. Ron in Kimberling City, and Ron says, Barry, I inherited an IRA from my father a few months ago. I have no idea what to do with it. You can help. Where do I start?
Well, you know, this is kind of special because you do realize we just had 2 questions from Stone County. So we must have a following down there in my home county because, you know, Crane is on one side of Galena where I grew up and Kimberling City's on the other side.
There you go.
So he asks a great question. It's really pretty simple, Ron. You've got 10 years from the time your father dies to withdraw the money from the beneficiary IRA account and pay the taxes. Now, you may want to do it sooner than that, but you do have 10 years to get it done. Why would you want to do it sooner? Because taxes are going to go higher, and you might want to do it today at lower tax rates than wait until taxes go higher, in which case it would cost you more and you'd receive less of the inheritance from dad. Now, a spouse, and I know you're not a spouse in this case, Ron, but a spouse can roll an inherited IRA over to their own IRA and just treat it as their own, and there's no additional tax implication from them. So making distributions from your dad's IRA, in this case, is a part of your overall retirement plan, and you need to coordinate the income that you're going to be forced to receive on your tax return from dad's IRA with your own retirement plan. So this is a good time to meet with a retirement distribution planner and a tax strategist. And at the Wealthcare Corporation, we help people just like you with that situation, figuring out how to take that income, meet the needs that you need to meet with it, but not pay any more taxes than you absolutely have to. So if we can help you, reach out to us using the information at the bottom of your screen. We'd be delighted to help.
All right, some great help on the way there. Ron, thank you for that very good question. On to Ozark, Barry, great town. And Jason writes in to ask, is it wrong not to want to leave an inheritance for our kids? They seem to argue all the time over everything, even as adults. Nothing's ever seeming fair to them, fair enough. Plus, we paid enough for their braces and their college and their cars and weddings. I feel like that ought to be enough.
Well, I've got great news for Jason. This is a judgment-free zone. What's on Wealth? The TV show is judgment-free.
All right in here, folks.
Join us on the radio. We might get judgment over there, but none on the TV.
Not in this circle. Okay.
So we've got clients who desperately want to leave a financial bequest to their kids, and I think that's a great thing. But there are other people who want to spend it all. In fact, right now, I'm listening to a book on Audible that's called Die with Zero. And it's all about how you basically ought to spend it all. So I don't think you have any moral obligation to leave money to your kids, particularly if you have launched them well. But if you want to leave money to your kids, you can, and there are efficient ways to do that, and we would be happy to help you learn more about that if you'll just reach out to us at the Wealthcare Corporation.
So that's what Barry is reading right now, and Linda in Springfield may want to tap into some of that advice there, Barry. She's asking, Barry, what are some good resources to help me learn more about my options for Social Security?
Ugh. Linda.
Is there a book on that?
Yeah, there are lots of books on it, but
And
Linda has asked the complicated question. She really has. I've heard it said that there are several hundred different claiming strategies that you can use depending on your situation. And honestly, unless you're planning a career as a Social Security advisor, and I'm guessing you're not, I think it would be a mistake for you, Linda, to try to learn more about Social Security claiming strategies instead. What I would recommend you do is connect with a good retirement advisor, a decumulation spending-oriented advisor, not an accumulation-oriented advisor. And what will happen is they probably have some software that will help you sort your options down to 2 or 3. We've got software that will do that. And then instead of looking at hundreds of different options, you've got 2 or 3 options to choose from, and it makes it easier for you to make your choice. So happy to help you with that if you'll just reach out to us at the Wealthcare Corporation. It's really why we exist, to help people just like you make good retirement choices. So contact us using the information at the bottom of your screen, and we'll help you with that.
All right. Barry, thanks again for digging into our mailbag and our questions all over the Ozarks, and I know you've helped those people already quite a lot.
It was a lot of fun, Ralph.
All right, and hope you'll call and make an appointment with Barry. If you want to know some ways to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, maintain your lifestyle in retirement, reach out now to Barry. You can leave a message over the weekend or call them during the week to start to plan your ideal retirement. This is Ralph Hipp, and for Barry Watts and the whole team at the wonderful Wealthcare Corporation in Springfield, we're wishing you a happy and healthy journey to and through your retirement. We'll see you next time.